Hi everyone, and welcome back to our final session today. We've just spent an hour talking about our Pro Bono Portal and its applications in Australia with two exciting projects, our CLCs on the Portal project and our Firm Manager project as extensions of that work. Another way that we have extended our Pro Bono Portal and its potential impact is by making it available at no cost to other organisations around the world so that they can host it and run it in their jurisdiction in the same way that Justice Connect does. So that is the focus of this presentation. We have speakers from our team at Justice Connect that is working on the global project. And we also have Jen Cheshire, Head of Digital Platforms and Projects from LawWorks in the UK, who has been on the organisation receiving the platform side of our project and has it up and running in the UK. And we're really excited to chat with Jen about that experience. I've also got my development team in the room with us today, just in case anyone has some questions around hosting and deployment, which sometimes come up, which they are much better placed to answer than I am. So thank you to the development team for being here as well. Before we get into the substantive content of the session, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we work and the land on which we're presenting from today. For us, that's the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I'd like to pay my respects to their elders, past and present. It was and always will be Aboriginal land. And if you would like to acknowledge the First Nations people who are traditional custodians of the land that you're attending this session from, we would love to see that in the chat. Just a reminder as well, if you have questions that pop up as the presentation goes along, please add your questions to the question and answer panel, and we'll do our best to get to them at the end of the session. I should also note, welcome Tom O'Doherty to our showcase. Tom is currently on parental leave and in Ireland. Many of you would know Tom. So a big thank you to Tom for making a cameo appearance from his parental leave and dialing in from Ireland where it's pretty early in the morning. So nice to have you with us, Tom. There he is. So I'll reiterate Justice Connect's purpose, something I've done at the start of every one of our sessions today, because everything that we do here at Justice Connect comes back to furthering this purpose. In the face of huge unmet legal need, we design and deliver high impact interventions to increase access to legal support and achieve social justice. It's a big mission and we work to achieve this in lots of ways. One of those ways is through our program of digital innovation. We run a huge range of digital projects at Justice Connect, and we have an approach and philosophy that underpins all of that work. It is that we are human-centered and driven by data and evidence in our design. We involve the end users at every stage of the design process, whether that is researching whether a product should exist, testing out a product in a pilot stage, or refining a product as it's been released in the community. We also involve the end users of our products in our evaluation of them and in those iteration cycles that follow. The products that Justice Connect release are never finished. There's always more that we can do to make them better. We leverage technology where possible in the work of our team, not because technology is the only way, but because there are often opportunities to use technology to have impact at scale. But there are certainly problems and use cases where technology is not the right answer. We're not technology first, but we're about looking for those opportunities to use technology to add value to the access to justice ecosystem. And on that point, we make system level interventions where we can, because we believe that's where we can have major impact. A quick note on our suite of digital innovation work. We have won a wide range of prizes for our digital innovation and for Justice Connect's broader strategic work. What these prizes show is that a small team in a charity in the right conditions can produce work that beats for-profit competitors. The amount of funding that we have is very limited. We run on the smell of an oily rag, and we consistently produce excellent products, and we consistently are recognised for that product excellence. I'll give a very quick overview of our Pro Bono portal. If you attended the last session, which I think most of you did, you would have heard most of this. So just to keep it short, our Pro Bono portal is the product of a range of research that we ran across 2016 and 2017, looking at where can we reduce complexity, where can we increase scale in our interactions and our work with our Pro Bono network. So Justice Connect has a network of over 10,000 Pro Bono lawyers. We now work with 170 law firms. In addition to directly running our own programs at Justice Connect, we run a clearinghouse where we triage requests for legal assistance from individuals and community organisations and place those with pro bono resources in that network that we work with. The Pro Bono portal is the answer to many of the pain points that we've experienced for many years in that process, pain points in how we get matters into our system, pain points in how we match that up with available pro bono resources at scale. So the platform was released in 2019, originally in a pilot with 14 firms, and then in an extended release with all of the 49 firms that we worked with at the time. We did not know in 2019 that 2020 was going to be a catastrophic year, that we would have catastrophic Australian bushfires, floods, and of course the COVID-19 pandemic. All of these issues increase legal need in the community and increase the need for scaled up responses. So our Pro Bono portal was able to form part of the backbone of the legal sector's response to those crises. We were able to connect up with frontline services and help bring in all those people and organisations that needed legal assistance that on-the-ground services weren't able to provide, and connect them up with those pro bono resources. In Australia, the appetite in the pro bono community to take on work is incredible. We have not yet reached the ceiling on pro bono capacity. Every time we scale up, the pro bono sector responds and takes on all of that work. So what we're really interested in is continuing to scale up and to make sure that, to the extent there's latent capacity in the pro bono network, we're taking advantage of that. So in Australia, when we launched the portal in 2019, this is what followed. We saw a 50% increase in pro bono referrals to firms in the 12 months post-launch. It's a combination of the platform enabling us to work at scale and the unmet legal need growth because of the crises of 2020. We now have 620 active platform users, 169 firms are using the platform. We've published 2,700 pro bono opportunities, and 1,983 of those have been allocated to pro bono lawyers. The firms that we work with in Australia have a lot to say about the portal and their appreciation for it. We covered this in the previous presentation, so I won't go through this. If you are interested to hear the Australian experience and you weren't in the session prior, I'd really encourage you to take a look at it when we make that available after the session. So, given the success that we had in Australia with the Pro Bono portal and the positive experience and the positive feedback from law firms, we started to hear from those firms, couldn't this work outside of Australia? A lot of the firms that do a lot of pro bono work in Australia are international firms or members of international networks of firms. And we were hearing again and again, surely this isn't just something that helps in Australia. Surely you could do this anywhere. Our initial response was maybe, but we developed it for Australia first. And after we heard from enough firms about this, we decided that it was worth at least asking the question and doing some considered research on this question of, could this portal add value elsewhere? And the more research we did, the more convinced we became that it could add value. So there are 5 billion people with unmet legal needs globally each year. And much like in Australia, there is a pro bono ecosystem that really wants to do more in this space, and there's a challenge in matching up that unmet need with the pro bono capacity. That problem looks something like this, where there are a whole range of actors in the space. There's lots of firms, there's lots of clearinghouses, there's lots of NGOs, there's lots of people and organisations that need legal help. And it's different in every jurisdiction, but by and large, there is not a completely coordinated approach across that jurisdiction, which means that there's missed opportunity to take advantage of that pro bono capacity, missed opportunity to have stronger collaborations between NGOs, clearinghouses, and pro bono lawyers. We presented this diagram to a range of clearinghouses, NGOs, and firms, and they all took a look at it and said, yeah, that's about right. So we knew we were getting closer to the issue. What we did next was we went through a planning and design phase in late 19 and early 20. We refined our idea along with further input from stakeholders, and we also undertook some fundraising. We were very fortunate to receive some funding from international philanthropy that would support us to do phase 2, which was our build and adapt and pilot phase, and also would support us to make sure that we could give the platform away for free, because we had also set up some principles that we wanted to sit underneath this project, and not charging a license fee to clearinghouses was one of those key principles. So from 2020, once we had that funding secured, the project was going ahead. And what we were pitching to clearinghouses and firms internationally was the potential to make their disordered ecosystem start to look a bit more like this ordered ecosystem. Now, no single platform is going to fix every problem, but this is the vision where there is much more coordination between the pathways in to clearinghouses and the connection up to those pro bono lawyers that have capacity to take on that matter, with the Pro Bono Portal sitting at the heart of that. So I mentioned those principles. The more we spoke to firms and clearinghouses, and the more we started to talk to organisations that might like to actually adopt the platform, some key themes came out that were shared and important to everyone. It was that this platform is owned and governed by a civil society charitable organisation. The quality of the platform and the impact of the platform are the drivers. We're not looking to make money. We don't have investors that we need to repay. It's ecosystem technology at no or low cost to hosting organisations. We don't meet our goals of impact if we price people out of using the technology. So making the system as low cost or free as possible is a key project principle. And so far we've supplied the platform for free to all the organisations that are using it. We've not sought investment income. All income for the project has been grants and donations, which means that we don't have investors that are looking for us to make good on their investment at some point, to return on that investment. We have philanthropists that want to see an impact. They don't need to see their money returned. We're keeping for-profit agendas out of the not-for-profit domain because we think that is critical in a project of this nature. It provides certainty around the future of the technology and the principles that will guide the technology's continued development into the future. The final thing is, we heard over and over again how important data sovereignty is. We couldn't agree more. We feel really strongly about that at Justice Connect too. So the way that we've enabled for this platform to be shared means that the organisation that hosts it has full sovereignty. They host it themselves. It is their data. They control who accesses that data and the circumstances in which they access that data. So we've talked through the features of the Pro Bono Portal a few times today, so I won't go into them in too much detail, but it really is a very sophisticated platform that is highly rated by all its current users. It has automatic notifications, really sensible workflows, lots of optionality around how to configure it or how to carry out a task so that it's appropriate for a certain circumstance. It's centralized information. It enables better collaboration across teams. It has very powerful and fascinating reporting. It's simple to deploy for a hosting organization. We're able to push updates to the code very easily. And it's purpose-built for the pro bono ecosystem. So the platform has ended up in a position where it's been working really well in Australia. And we described last time in the last presentation, that we've enabled other organisations to become posting users. And this was part of our broader vision for the platform. So in Australia, it's no longer a platform just for Justice Connect to engage with law firms. It's a platform for other legal centres to engage with law firms privately as well. So it's now become an ecosystem level system. And to try and explain the distinction, Australia is a good example. So initially we launched the platform and Justice Connect was using it to engage with the law firms that Justice Connect works with. There were around 50 of them at the time. And what this diagram attempts to show is we were the jurisdiction host and we were a single clearinghouse that was sending matters off to firms using the platform. But the other clearinghouses and NGOs had to come through us. They didn't have direct access to the platform. And what our CLCs on the portal project did was move us into this model where the clearinghouses are on platform and engaging with all those firms. And we've also opened it up so that any firm can become a registered user of the platform. Who they can engage with and how they engage depends on their relationship with the clearinghouse. So clearinghouses and firms have got settings that they can use to set the ground rules around how they engage. So those two options are now available globally. Clearinghouses are welcome to take the platform and just set it up for themselves and for the firms that they're working with. But we're also really interested in jurisdictions where there's appetite to get it running at the ecosystem level. So we've rolled out the platform now in 4 jurisdictions. It's up and running in Ireland through PILA. It's up and running in New Zealand. It's up and running in the UK, and the UK is running it as an ecosystem level project, which is why we're going to hear from them shortly about their experience with that. We're also in the process of getting it up and running in Hong Kong through a partnership between 2 legal organisations, which is another model that sits somewhere between the ecosystem level and the single clearinghouse level. So Tom, I'd be really interested to hear from you quickly on your reflections on the Justice Connect side of what the steps are to actually getting this up and running in another jurisdiction.
Sure, Kate. Yeah, I think it's really important to say as well that it's not just a platform. We don't set and forget. We kind of help people through the whole process, setting it up, then deploying it, configuring it, and then support those jurisdictions after as well. The basis of setting it up, the platform from the platform side, it's very easy to deploy. It takes maybe a week. We're trying to reduce that time all of the time. And I think key points here is that the only cost for clearinghouses is the AWS cost. So that's the hosting and cloud infrastructure costs. So that's $80 per month. So very low cost platform and very low on resources as well, but it's also scalable so that if you do have a huge amount of matters coming through, for jurisdictions that might be a lot larger, it is scalable as well. Those costs can go up slightly, but it means that the platform, it's developed for the Australian jurisdiction, but then can be scaled to other jurisdictions as well. I think the key points are that it's some of the work that's done previous, so around taxonomies. We work with jurisdictions on those and to define how the platform is to be configured. And then on the jurisdiction side, and Jen's probably going to talk about this a lot, but there's a huge amount of work to engage organizations within those jurisdictions, firms within those jurisdictions, so they're onboarded to the platform. We provide help, we provide support and training as well, different types of materials to help with that. And that's an ongoing process from when the platform is deployed to post deployment and new firms come on board or new organizations come on board as well.
Great. So I think that's a good time to invite Jen to join the conversation. And by way of introduction as well, I would love to recognise that the partnership between LawWorks and Justice Connect recently received a Legal Innovation Award in the UK, which is a whole of legal industry award, and it was awarded the Disruptive Technology of the Year prize. And here is a picture that includes both Tom and Jen, because remarkably, they were both able to be in London when the awards ceremony was held. So this is a real endorsement of the project and of how it's actually been put to work in the UK. So Jen, I'll hand over to you. We'd love to hear your reflections on what it's been like working with Justice Connect, which in your case has mostly been with Tom, and with Laura, and your reflections on the platform.
Hi everyone, hopefully you can hear me. Excellent, great start. Really delighted to be here this morning to talk about the partnership with Justice Connect. And it's been such an interesting morning. Like, it's been so exciting to hear all the other projects that you're doing at Justice Connect. So well worth the 3 a.m. alarm call this morning. So I'm Jen, I'm Head of Digital Platforms and Projects at LawWorks. LawWorks is a charity working in England and Wales to connect volunteer pro bono lawyers with people in need of legal advice. So those that aren't able to afford the advice and aren't entitled to any sort of financial support for it. And also for not-for-profit organisations. So we've been working with Justice Connect for a while now on how the portal might be utilised in the UK, doing the work that Tom just spoke about. So when I joined LawWorks last year in 2021, work had already started to scope the use of the portal in the UK, and we were conducting a small successful pilot to test the processes. So we were working with a small number of referral agencies, so those organisations working with individuals that might have legal needs, and a small number of firms, so that we could just test the elements of the process and the platform, so we were confident that it was going to work within our jurisdiction. So then in terms of the progression and how we took that to the next step, in the summer last year, so following that successful pilot, we formed the LawWorks Digital Advisory Group. So this was made up of predominantly external stakeholders from across the legal and advice sector. So there were representatives from firms, from in-house legal teams, law centres network, advice agencies, and of course Justice Connect sat on that group as well. So the role of that group was and is to provide advice, support, insights in that are going to support our digital service offer, and enhance engagement across the legal, pro bono and advice sector. So the initial focus of that group has really been the portal and rolling that out in this jurisdiction, and the group have been absolutely invaluable in both supporting the launch of the platform, and also helping us work through some of the the challenges. And yeah, I would say that Justice Connect's membership of that group has been incredibly important. So, you know, just think of a little example, you know, it was going to be inevitable that some of our legal colleagues would require, you know, either specific information or specific support in order to feel comfortable with moving to a platform like the portal. And we were able to work with Justice Connect to develop, you know, sort of the resources to support those conversations. So, you know, the big sort of change management and cultural shift piece was completely supported through that process. So in November last year, so November 2021, we officially launched the portal, although it had been being used on a much smaller scale through, you know, from the pilot right through. And our not-for-profits programme was the first programme to entirely transition onto the platform. So they started brokering all their volunteering opportunities for our flagship casework and honorary counsel services. So that was a significant piece of work, that, you know, taking such a large program for LawWorks onto that, and going through the process of onboarding. I think within 2 weeks we onboarded 60 firms. So, you know, having the support of Justice Connect and their resources and helping us to develop, you know, specific things that we needed was so important. And just, you know, I mean, just being there to answer questions as I was frantically like, so yeah, so that's brilliant. So, and just for context, last year the not-for-profits programme connected over 200 smaller charities and social enterprises, working with vulnerable, disadvantaged individuals, families, communities. They connected those organisations with pro bono legal advice and training. And the not-for-profit supported by the programme worked over the year with an estimated 1.37 million individuals. So, you know, when you break it down like that, the impact is huge. So yeah, so we've gone live now. We've officially launched. And if you were here for the introduction session earlier, you'd have heard Kate say about, you know, you really understand how the platform's going to be used and how it's going to perform when it's actually out there being used. And that's where it's got really exciting from our perspective, as we're beginning to see and understand how the portal is going to be used by pro bono coordinators and other, you know, and other members of legal teams in real life. And then we've been able to work with Justice Connect to create and develop additional functionality to make improvements, which has been great, and, you know, testament to them, you know, wanting to work with people on the portal. So just as an example, functionality to allow pro bono connectors to disseminate more detailed information from the portal with their colleagues, you know, thus improving the chances of a lawyer, you know, volunteering with that matter. That was something that came out really strongly when we transitioned the pro bono portal, and it was great to be able to work with the teams to make that happen. So since November, we've now got more programs being run through the portal, and we're scoping the potential to include other LawWorks projects and programs on it. We have almost 70 firms and in-house legal teams on the platform now. And we're working with stakeholders to understand how the portal can support both the pro bono and advice sector more broadly. So using the additional functionality of including organisations having direct access and use for their own pro bono requests and opportunities. excitingly, we're also piloting slightly different ways of using it. So, you know, allowing groups to be able to use it to refer opportunities between each other. So I don't think it's been used in that way elsewhere. So we're just testing that out, and it's, you know, I mean, it's amazing that the platform has the flexibility to allow us to go, actually, you know, here we need to think about whether it can be used in this way, and, you know, being able to test that. So yeah, so we're delighted to be working with Justice Connect, and we'll continue to work together with the aim of creating this national one-stop shop to revolutionise the pro bono ecosystem in the UK. You know, ultimately to increase the number of people receiving the legal help they need. So I just wanted to quickly finish on a quote from one of our member firms, because that's always nice. They said that the development of the UK Pro Bono Portal has enhanced the already excellent service provided by LawWorks, enhancing the efficiency and processes for us as a law firm and providing true innovation. So that's, you know, that's brilliant. So yeah, so just want to thank the team at Justice Connect, and thank you for having me here today. Obviously, we've been working really closely with you. So, you know, particularly Tom and Laura, if I have missed anything that you think would be helpful, please just give me a nudge. Otherwise, that's it. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jen. And yeah, a massive thank you to Tom and Laura, who have provided a huge amount of support to LawWorks, which is something that has been an absolute pleasure for our team to do. It's very rewarding to see the project get to this point now with LawWorks, and to really see, again, some of those hypotheses we had originally validated once it's in the real world. And as you say, Jen, understanding other opportunities once it's out in the world, the different directions you can push it in. Tom, I don't know if you want to turn your camera on and wave hi or anything, but I just want to make sure that you get the recognition for all the work that you've done, Tom, particularly while I was on parental leave. So thanks, Tom, and to Laura. It's such exciting work. And it's also quite demanding work because of all the different time zones across all those installations that we're managing now. But we really see this step as showing the full scaled up potential of a platform like the Pro Bono Portal, something that we can develop here in this smallish size organisation and really spin out to have a global impact. So yeah, thanks for your partnership, Jen, and being one of the very earliest adopters in a global setting. So that brings us to the end of our presentation on the Global Pro Bono Portal. I haven't received any questions, but if you do have any questions for Jen or Tom or Laura, please do send them through. And we will have Chris Povey, our CEO, joining us shortly for some closing remarks. Oh, here's Chris. Just give one more minute to see if any questions come through. I would encourage you, if you are a clearinghouse or a law firm internationally that's interested in hearing a bit more about what the Pro Bono Portal could do for you in your jurisdiction, just please reach out. We're very happy to set up a time to talk you through the platform in some more detail, give you access to a demo site, and help you understand how it might work in your particular context, because there are always nuances in the different jurisdictions, but so far we've been able to accommodate those nuances in the platform because it is very flexible. No questions, so I'll hand over to you, Chris.
Thanks, Kate. Sorry, hi everyone. I'm Chris, I'm CEO of Justice Connect. I'm on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I'd like to pay my respects and acknowledge elders past and present, always was and always will be Aboriginal land. It's a privilege for me to speak to you today, and I imagine perhaps some people are clicking off, and I understand that because you've had a lot of fantastic presentations, but bear with me. I'll try and keep it brief. For me, thinking about digital has me thinking about legal need, right? It can only be that we think about what is the problem that we're trying to solve here. I had coffee with a funder on Monday, and in addition to supporting us, he talked about, he's a big supporter of other health organisations. And I may have grumbled about the disparity in funding between health and legal, might not have been all that diplomatic. And in response, he started thinking about, well, look, legal need's not that tangible. It's a bit one step removed from some of the needs that people have. And that comment was in my mind this morning when I jumped on the Pro Bono Portal for a quick look. And I saw a story of an older woman who needed help dealing with elder abuse. Her house is at risk. Another client who needs advocacy support with disability housing supports. There are a bunch of people who need support who are impacted by floods. They need a range of different assistance, including help with insurance and contracts, land disputes, illegal eviction, and lots of not-for-profit organisations needing help with constitutions and employment issues and more. For me, reflecting on this, it's a reminder, it's very easy to forget how significant legal issues are. Research shows us that it impacts your health, your housing, your safety, your financial stability, your family relationships. This very brief snapshot of what's on the portal today exposes policy failure, and front of mind right now, we're faced with aged care, housing and climate failures. We are also very clearly faced with the impact of failure to invest in legal supports. Demand is rising significantly and millions miss out on legal help every year. There's nowhere near enough help to go around. And what that actually means is people suffer more. It amplifies disadvantage. In 2020, we ran a strategy process. If you're ever going to do it, 2020 is probably a year to do it. The scale of legal need was already an issue. There was already huge unmet need, millions of people missing out. Now add a global pandemic, now add rolling climate disasters. In the context of this environment, in this context in which we find ourselves, digital strategies aren't optional, they're not nice to have, they are an imperative for how we achieve our purpose, how we achieve access to justice. Digital access to justice is part of the Access to Justice Challenge. Over 5 years, we've built, maintained and improved digital products to increase access to justice. Our products are being adopted in different contexts and different jurisdictions around Australia and around the world, as we've just seen. Thank you, Jen and Tom. In the face of huge unmet legal need, we've talked about projects that offer real hope for change, and that makes me very, very proud. The presentations today as well, it's not just about that, it's about how you do it, right? Innovation must be inclusive, it must be collaborative, and absolutely it must be human-centered. Not just because it's the right thing to do, but because it's the only way to build things that work. I'm incredibly proud of what we've achieved and what the team has achieved. And I would like to suggest that if anyone out there is minded to support us, please do so. As you perhaps have gathered from the long list of awards and also products that are in the market and are working, we are regarded as a leader in this field, and a modest investment in us and in the work that we do delivers real impact. It goes a long way. That's the idea behind our strategy and our focus on scale. I want to thank the many partners and collaborators who joined us today, in particular the University of Melbourne Computer Science faculty, DLA Piper, Herbert Smith Freehills, Norton Rose Fulbright, LawWorks. I'm sure, Kate, I forgot someone or two in there because I know there's a star lineup. And I also want to thank our star Justice Connect presenters too. Perhaps, Kate, if I've forgotten anyone, you can jump in. Finally, for those of you who are in Melbourne, please do join us in real life, or as I like to say to the kids, IRL. We'll be at Juliet Bar on Little Burke Street from 5:30. Kate, did I get that right? Yep, great.
Yes, and we don't think you forgot anyone either. So,
Oh.
But yeah, please come and join us for a drink. We haven't seen many of you in a long time, and we would love to see you IRL.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Kate.
Thanks, Chris.